beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about why I decided to take a year off from school. So I got my Michigan State sunglasses on, you know, check the fly, you feel me? So yes, I have my Michigan State sunglasses on, and now we're ready for the day. As some of you may know, I took a year off from college to get InState Tuition. So essentially, I went to school my freshman semester, and then I left. I was gone for a year, and then I came back the next year of that spring semester, which was in January. Now, I've gotten quite a few questions from some of the young people who I've already talked to about this decision, but I figured that I would make a video about it just to kind of give you guys a little bit of thorough insight as to why I decided to take a year off from school. First off, I want to say that my decision to take a year off from school was solely based on economic hardships, okay? When I went to college, I didn't really have no money to go to school. I was counting on financial aid. I was counting on whatever else was going to come through, and I was counting on a miracle, and thankfully one happened, you know. Shout out to the plug. So, you know, college was just very expensive. Going to a school that was out of state, the cost of tuition was literally double. So for when I was going to school, in-state tuition was like maybe 20 grand a year, so that's like 10 bands a semester, and then out-of-state tuition was double that. And I'm like, bruh, what's up with that? Like, I didn't understand why tuition was double for out-of-state students when, whether you're out-of-state or whether you're in-state, if you're a student there, I'm sitting in the same class with you, we learning the same thing, we taking the same test. Why am I paying more to take the same class as the person who's sitting next to me? And I just didn't really comprehend that. I didn't understand that. Later on, I was told by a few people, and I don't know how true this is, but I was told by a few people that it's because that state was not receiving my tax dollars. Now, in my mind, I'm like, it ain't enough tax dollars in the world for you to be charging this much for the same education. Like, that's ridiculous. However, I knew that I wanted to go to Michigan State. I knew that that was my dream school, and I knew that I had made it there, like, literally by the skin of my teeth. If you have not watched that video, I will put the link below. But that was the majority of the reason why I decided to take a year off from school, because I did want to continue my education, but I did want to continue to pay double for the same education as somebody who just lived in Michigan for their whole life. So I was like, you know what? I need to figure out how I can get in-state tuition. And so I went to the financial aid office and I talked to someone in there, and they basically told me that for Michigan State, their requirement was that I would have to be in the state of Michigan for a year without the intent to study in order to get in-state tuition. So basically what that was to establish residency in that state. So I would, you know, have to do things like register to vote, get a license, get a job there, and those are all things that I did. I also know that I told you all about how I worked at McDonald's, and I talked about that in my other video. But yeah, so when I took a year off from school, thankfully I had family who lived in the state of Michigan. Shout out to my Michigan family. And I was able to stay with them for a period of time, and then I eventually ended up getting my own apartment, and I had a roommate. And while I was there, I did things like I made sure that I had a copy of my lease. I made sure that I was registered to vote. I got an ID. I got a driver's license. With my jobs, I saved all of my physical paycheck stubs so that when I will have to go back to Michigan State to prove my residency, I would have multiple forms of proof in order to show that yes, I've been here for a year. So thankfully, when I started working at McDonald's, I ended up getting that job rather quickly, and I worked there from like February to October, and then I had left there, and because I made it very clear when I first started working there that I was only going to be there for about a year to kind of, you know, just pay off my debt to school and get back in school. So me being at McDonald's was not something that was going to be long term. It was very temporary. I ended up leaving there in October. I worked at Arby's after that. I worked at like Halloween City And then come January, I moved back to school. Now, the number crunching portion of this. So I'm going to break this down so that y'all understand it the way that I understood it. Out-of-state tuition was $40,000 roughly. The exact number I think in 2009 was like $38,000 a year, and that's for out-of-state tuition. So, mind you, I was only there for a semester, so I paid $18,500 for that first semester. And if you've been keeping up with this series, you know that my first semester of college was some trash for multiple reasons. And I ended up failing all of those classes because of the financial stress that I had on me to be in school. I didn't have money for books. I didn't have money saved away. My mom was a single parent, and her main priority was, I need to make sure that my child has food on the table, clothes on her back, can get to school, has uniform for school. So there were a lot more immediate things that had to take precedence over a college fund or money being saved, which was understandable, but that was a big portion of why my freshman year was so bad, because I was trying to figure out how I was going to get books, how I was going to stay in the dorms, because that was so expensive. The school was bombarding me with emails about making a payment. I'm also in these classes that I'm not supposed to be in. My freshman semester was a mess, but I ended up, that semester cost me $18,500. And then even when I left, in order to come back to school, I had to pay off a balance of $3,600 that had to be paid off by August. So if you remember, I got the job in February, and then August, that's 6 months. So I had to have it paid off by August so that my account would be in good standing, so that I could go online, register for my classes, and be able to pick my classes up, and my classes not be full so that I couldn't get in them. And I would be back at square one with where I was my freshman year. So knowing that, that was the majority of the reason why I decided to take a year off. I needed my tuition to be cheaper, period. It was a really big sacrifice. And it was one that many people choose not to take advantage of for whatever reasons they come up with. Some people don't have family that lives in that state that they can stay with. I was fortunate enough to have that resource available to me. Other people may not have the support in order to do that. So I was very fortunate on that end too. I also had friends who I had made while I was there for that first semester who helped me out along the way, just to say, hey, look into this resource, or hey, I found out this. You know, I had friends who were also going to bat for me, even though I wasn't at state. When it came time for me to prove my residency, I had friends who lived in the state of Michigan their whole lives to write letters and say, I met her this time, we've been friends for this amount of time, we've communicated here and there, just to kind of vouch on my behalf. Also too, I knew that with me being there by myself, it was an opportunity for me to decrease my tuition. It was an opportunity for me to become independent, which meant that I would get a lot more grant money, I would get a lot more scholarship money, and there would be a lot of financial opportunities for me to indulge in that would help me to finish college. So I just saw a lot of benefits from deciding to take a year off from school. Again, I'm cheap, so 50% off of $40,000 sounds like a great idea. As a result of becoming an in-state student, my tuition not only went down, I got a lot more financial aid, and I also started getting refund checks. So that was a big plus. I still do have a lot of loans, but I also had a lot more grant money that came through, and grants are things that you do not have to pay back. So that was definitely a plus, and I weighed all of my options before deciding to take a year off. And I made sure that I communicated with the job that I was working with on campus before I left. I made sure I communicated with the financial aid office to, see what I needed to do to make sure that door was left open for me to be able to come back. As of right now, if I'm not mistaken, out-of-state tuition is probably like $51,000 for out-of-state students at Michigan State. And for someone who's paying that much, that's $200,000 in debt for an undergraduate degree. Granted, you do it in 4 years. Most people graduate from college in 5 years, and some people take 6 years to graduate from college. So imagine 50 bands for the year. You in college for 5 years. That's a lot of debt. It's a lot of debt. So for me, looking at a financial standpoint, knowing what that financial stressor was my freshman year and not wanting to repeat that, I definitely saw a lot of opportunity in taking a year off from school. I also needed to just de-stress. I needed to relax. I needed to get comfortable in myself. I needed to reaffirm my intelligence, reaffirm my abilities, and in working and that being my only thing I needed to do, I was able to learn on my leisure. I was able to enjoy reading again on my own time. I was able to enjoy extracurricular activities. I was able to just relax on the inside. Mentally, I was able to take a break, and I was a lot more refreshed when I went back to school that next semester. So taking a year off, it just had a lot of positives for me. I met some great people. You know, it wasn't easy, but I did it, and you can do it too. If you know that going to school is something that's going to be financially stressful, then I would just say try to prepare for that to make it less stressful on yourself. Not everything in life will be easy, and I don't think that everything in life should be, but it should definitely be simple. You should always try to set yourself up to finesse the situation, and you should always communicate with people and always look for resources because they are out there. Sometimes taking a year off is what you need. A break is what you need sometimes. And for me, I wasn't sure how that break was going to go, but it was a chance that I was willing to take, and that chance made me a champion because I graduated. I'm Customized Key, and thanks for tuning in with me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Comment, rate, and subscribe, and tell your friends. If there are other people who you know may be in this same situation, look out for them, talk to them, share this video with them, because I definitely would love to be a resource to them as well. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Booyah!